Yeah, back-to-back 3-1 wins away from home as well with that FA Cup clash against Villa. It does have them in the top half of the table, just in 10th right now. So there we are.
What we're going to talk about, Man United are winning games, Chelsea have started winning. Who the hell are we going to hit with this big hammer?
We thought we'd get your former Blues boys in to help us as well.
Yeah, well, it couldn't get much worse than recently.
Mario Melchiot and Frank Leboeuf are with us as well. OK,
well, these two hate Chelsea more than me, so I don't want...
So let's see what you've all got to say. Let me start with you.
Well, what, you want to talk about the first half?
I want you to... Well, you might want to talk about the first half, but let's look at it overall. What's your takeaway from the game?
That Palace are a poor side and that Chelsea were so pedestrian for 45 minutes, but it got better. And that's all you can ask is at the moment to try and piece some results together and get some momentum, get some confidence. But he's still searching for what his best side is, what his best attacking options are. Thiago Silva had to go off injured. So, you know, not all positives, but go away from home again. You beat Villa 3-1, you beat Palace 3-1. It's better than it was. That's the only thing I could say. It saves... It's a bit like Ten Hag in a sense where you just don't want to have to come in and answer those questions again. So it's better from Chelsea, but boy, there's a long, long, long way still to go.
What have you got to say, Frank?
Well, you know, I was like all the fans, you know, expecting a confirmation about the Villa game that we saw and the good performance that they had. And yes, I was appalling the first half. And as Craig said, they were very pedestrian. And that was the key, you know, against Villa, they didn't dominate the game, but they paced up the game. And that was the difference. And the second half is what they did. And it's how they made the difference. That was crazy to hear the fans singing the song, you know, because I'm the only one who believed that Chelsea could change their mind. But they say, you know, everything's going to be all right. Everything went all right for Chelsea. They sang Bob Marley, that was great, and maybe cheer up the Chelsea players. And it was a different side, different color, and they did what they had to do. You know, I want to congratulate Conor Gallagher. I mean, that guy had a great game for 90 minutes, and maybe he was the only one to have done so.
Imagine if they'd let him go, Mario, Conor Gallagher.
Yeah, I said it so many times. I still don't understand that situation because I think he's the one team that kind of drives it. You know, when they need the character, the energy, the motivation, I think he's always showing it. Also because he has to, because in the sense of like you had an armband for so long, okay, regarding of, you know, Chilwell being back now, but he had that. So they needed the motivation and they needed also, I always say, like, this is a team that has to hold on to a certain part of their culture. So that's why I think he's very important. But what the guys already highlighted, the first half, you understand, was so slow. I couldn't understand why they kept it so slow. He tweaked it in the halftime and then changed it a little bit. But I didn't understand as well what Palace did because they allowed Chelsea to attack from the right-hand side. Okay, they took Madueke out, but Malo Gusto kept on attacking on that right-hand side and they never closed him down. So I think that was kind of one of the key things that I didn't expect Roy to linger on for so long. And I also was looking at Chelsea, why it took so long for them to pick up the pace. Because there were a couple of moments when Fernandes trying to put the through ball and there was nobody standing there. So that was kind of like, in the first half, it was kind of like, wow. But then the second half, I felt like I think Chelsea, when they play against a team that really wants to go at them, then they can find the open space. But when they have to dictate the tempo and dictate the moments cut through, that's when they struggle. And that's what happened in the first half.
It's hard to sit here and talk. It's quite difficult to do this job in a way that, what do you say about a club that has spent the amount of money they have spent and they are 10th in the table? You know, do we sit here and say, well, things are going in the right direction? Because I think it's a little early for that. They have a big cup final coming up against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, which we have. That's going to be a proper test, which, I mean, they got hammered against Liverpool last time out. So I think they're a difficult conversation at the moment because, you know, we can sit and talk about two teams that have really struggled. Man United have spent big, really, over the past few years, and Chelsea. But you kind of hang your jacket on Man United a little bit with the discussion, because you could say, well, will they overturn Villa? Will they catch Tottenham? Will they get in the top four? Can they keep putting these results together? With Chelsea, what's the end game this season? Finishing above Brighton. Scraping into Europe somewhere. I mean, I just don't know where to go with this Chelsea discussion, because what at the end of the day, Frank, is going to be acceptable? I just don't know.
No, I agree with you. The only thing is you have to forget about that, because that's the board problem and the board issue, the numbers. What you have to look at is that the players and what their value it really is, and it really is, and that for sure. When you watch Caicedo and even Fernandes, they're not worth 100 million for sure. They're young players, they have a bright future for sure. They are talented, but they're not that value. So if you analyze or expose what you want to say about them according to what the Chelsea paid, you're going to be wrong for sure, because you're going to be nice sometimes where that is not at the level that we would love them to see. They're not worth that amount of money for sure. And most of them, they are future players, and we just have to analyze and comment what we see. And what we see is the mid-table team who are doing sometimes good, sometimes great last week, but most of the time average. But when they do well, we cannot analyze it because Caicedo worth 100 million, because otherwise we're going to demolish the guy every time.
This is what's ahead for them. Yep. And you pick out a few there: Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal in there as well. It's not an easy run.
No, and I think if they have enough positive results from that upcoming schedule, then I really sit and think we could say, well, he's turned the corner with this group, and they're buying into what he's doing and all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, until they do that, I'd hate to say this, but they're kind of not worth talking about, really, to a certain degree. I said at the start of the season they would be an afterthought, and they pretty much are. Yeah, they're in the FA Cup. Yeah, they're in the Carabao Cup final, and maybe they will prove me wrong in those games. But at the moment, they're not worth talking about much more than some of the other sort of mediocre sides, and it's kind of where they are. I'm not very often lost for words, but I'm kind of flummoxed here in what to say about this. I mean, the Villa game was different. Villa was a proper, that was a really good away performance. Okay, Villa have faded and are a little bit more jaded, but they'd only been beaten once at Villa Park until obviously United beat them at the weekend. They'd only been beaten once, and that was Newcastle. So that was a little bit of a scalp. FA Cup away from home after the draw at Stamford Bridge at Villa Park. That was something to sit back. Oh, that was pretty good. If they can do that for 5 or 6 games, which they've got coming up, big games, and get positive results in the majority of them, then maybe we could sit and say, yeah, he's on the right track. If they were to lose 4 or 5 of those games, he's back in the mire. He really is, and he's going to be under pressure again. So the next, 3 or 4 weeks is going to be just as important as the previous 3 or 4 weeks for Mauricio Pochettino.
Mario?
Yeah, no, look, before we started the season, we already said that as well. And on that scale, I definitely agree with what Greg said. You understand that it's a difficult situation, but also where they come from. So I think sometimes people have to understand when the change happens, it's very difficult to find the right metaphor in the sense of like how you're going to grow your team. And I think now, why are we seeing so many ups and downs at the bigger clubs? I think sometimes they get caught by having great individuals, but they don't perform as a team. And the moment when they perform as a team, we go like, oh, they did okay. And I think, and when we watch them as individuals, we demand more of them. And I think when you watch, for example, even today, I saw first half, I didn't see a team performing really well. But in the second half, I saw a team outsmarting the other ones. And I think that is kind of like what Chelsea's playing with. Because regarding if we're talking about the Liverpool final, the City is also like a final for them. Because when they go City, they, like I said last week when I was on, I said, it's very important how you go into a final. We have all come across finals ourselves. And the most important part for a final, people can say whatever they want, is the confidence that you bring with you when you enter a final. So when they are playing City, you don't want to lose and look so bad. They don't have to make the game, because we clearly know that they are not there to make the game when they play City, but they're going to sit back and try to maneuver and hit them on the break. Okay. But then they're going to play Liverpool. You're playing a final. It's a one-off game. What are you going to do? So those are the kind of key things when they start, coming towards the end of this month. I think it's going to be very, very important in what they're going to do in the next step if they want to keep on growing.